Guys, we've got some quick news updates on both college football and college basketball and potential expansion in both postseasons. Now, when it comes to college football, we've got the ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips telling ESPN on Wednesday there's a lot of push to expand the college football playoff in 2024. And guys, this is something I've said from the beginning. The reason there's a big push to expand by 2024 and not 2026 is because they're going to make an additional $500 million in revenue from the extra games, from the, more important matchups, the higher ratings, if they really come together and come to an agreement to get the 12-team playoff officially installed, that format, in 2024. So guys, when it comes to the layout of college football, we're looking this year, obviously, we've got the 4-team playoff. We've got the New Year's Six Bowl, the same structure. Next year, we've got the 4-team playoff. We've got the same structure. But then in 2024, I think in the coming weeks, this will be finalized. All the presidents are having an in-person meeting, I believe by the end of October. And there is going to be a major incentive in terms of money to get this thing locked down. And this is the ACC commissioner. Remember, when this thing originally didn't pass, they proposed the 12-team format, whatever, it didn't pass. The ACC was one of the conferences that was against this model. Now we've got their commissioner coming out and saying, we know what's happening. We want it to be done by 2024. There's no reason not to have this installed as soon as possible. Obviously, it has to be realistic. You can't do it next year. Logistically, getting all, the stadiums, things like that. We're going to have to see how this format looks. But right now, guys, it is looking like the on-campus games for round 1, the top 4 seeds getting byes, and then round 2 will be the start of the New Year's 6 games. Round 3 will be the top 4 teams, and then round 4 will be the national championship. That is what we're looking at right now. We've also got some interesting things on college basketball and possibly college basketball realizing and understanding and trying to capitalize off of the NCAA March Madness tournament, their big money train, their big revenue stream. They realize what college football is doing, expanding this, creating more ratings, more meaningful games, better for advertisers, more money overall. And now we've got an idea between all the commissioners that are now talking about possibly an expanded March Madness tournament. And we've already got the 64-team tournament. I think there's 68 total with the first 4. It gets chopped down. And then the actual tournament has 64 teams. This is what I think Jim Phillips said. I'm a believer that the auto qualifiers and winning a championship matters. It should matter. I'm not interested in reducing the auto qualifiers. I'm just not. But I'm also committed to making sure those that deserve to get into the tournament should. You're trying to balance the access across Division I, making sure the AQs remain there for conferences. They need that. They need that for the financial piece of it. They need it for the emotional piece of it, to be a part of it, etc. So they don't want to exclude any conference. And obviously, I don't understand why he's saying that. If you're trying to get more teams into the tournament, you're not going to eliminate the auto qualifiers. Guys, there's actually a potential format that shows the 96-team model. I believe that's what this is. And you've got, it looks like, maybe the first 32 teams getting byes or something like that. I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6. Yeah, it's 32 teams getting byes, and it's an additional round. And guys, I think the NCAA has to be very careful with this. It's almost too much. We all love March Madness. But the extra game, I don't know, man. Maybe it seems like a lot. So it seems like a lot in my opinion. But this has been something that's been talked about for a while. I found this interesting doing research on this. Take a look at this article. This from Bleacher Report from 2010. NCAA tournament expansion, why 96 teams would have been a good thing. So they're reapproaching it kind of probably due to the whole football situation and the playoff expanding to the 12 teams. Now they're saying we've got a real money train. Why not get more games that people bet on, they care about, make it more competitive? And you do give, you're not going to have a team like Gonzaga or a team like Kansas playing an extra round. The top 32 teams would get the buys. We've also got Kevin Warren saying that they're open to the idea. Of course, all these commissioners, they have to put out fluff pieces. They have to say, we want there to be more opportunities for teams and for kids, when in reality, it's making them more money. If this was a situation where more games would cost them money, they would chop it down. But it makes them more money, so they're saying, oh yeah, it's for the kids. We want these games and things like that. That's why they're so obsessed with getting this playoff kicked off in 2024, because they'll make an extra $500 million. That was reported over the summer, and that's why I continue to say they want that thing done ASAP. And don't be surprised by the end of this month if we get a shocking announcement that the 12-team playoff for college football is coming in 2024. Don't be surprised. And guys, I love the 12-team playoff. There are so many more pros than cons when you compare the 12-team playoff to the 4-team playoff. So I am happy, but I'm just saying this is all driven by money. And you've got all these commissioners saying, yeah, we want the kids to get more opportunity. I mean, guys, let's be honest. Some of these teams on the bubble are just not good. So you're talking, we're talking about teams that legitimately in college basketball are like 15-13. And they're making the tournament as an 11 seed or something. And now you expand it even bigger. I mean, my goodness, you're going to have teams with like losing records make the tournament. I think that takes away from it a little bit. You've got all these records and like so-and-so has made the NCAA tournament every year since whenever, or, that's going to kind of go away. If we're letting teams in the tournament, if it goes to 96 teams, you're going to be letting teams that are possibly like 13-17 into the tournament. Listen, they want to make more money. I don't think anyone would complain, but it is a little bit of a different situation in terms of college football compared to college basketball. College basketball, we've already got so many rounds. It's like, okay, now it's too much. It's just like making the, college football playoff 32 teams, like, okay, now it's too much, right? Making the tournament even bigger, it's like, I don't know, I know you give some of the teams buys, you give all the top teams buys, it's interesting, but those are two things that are kind of the next step. We're going to get the college football expansion and then possibly college basketball, NCAA March Madness tournament expansion to maybe around 96 teams in that format where the first 32 best teams, including, I believe, all the conference champions or something like that, they all get buys in round one. I don't know the exact format. I'm sure this is the first I've heard of this recently, so we'll see what happens. And then I always like looking at the week 7 bowl predictions. So guys, we do have faith that this will not happen. This would not be good for college football. If you're talking about the 4-team playoff being Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama, I think both Georgia and Clemson will not make the playoff. Both of those teams are flawed in my opinion. I mean, I guess you could say Alabama is as well. Ohio State seems to be pretty good right now, the only issue being their secondary. But I do think Bama and Ohio State will make the playoff. I maintain that thought. And then two, hopefully, wild card teams that are not Georgia and Clemson because, that's one of the things a lot of casual fans really do not like about college football. It's the same teams every year. The Rose Bowl would be certainly amazing. I'm sure the Rose Bowl would love this. Michigan, USC, that would be a best case scenario for them. The Cotton Bowl, that's probably worst case scenario. Oregon versus Coastal Carolina. Guys, Coastal Carolina is undefeated, but they've had it always seems like they have a ridiculously easy schedule. So you look at the actual metrics and the numbers, they do not like Coastal Carolina. I'll tell you what, the numbers also don't like Oklahoma State. But Oklahoma State listed in the Sugar Bowl right now, they are undefeated. I think the Big 12 is a complete mosh pit. I don't think Oklahoma State's making a New Year's Six Bowl. Has them facing Tennessee. Tennessee with two massive matchups. I do wonder, let's say Tennessee loses to both Alabama and Georgia but wins all their other games. I think they're a lock for a New Year's Six Bowl personally. And then the Orange Bowl, we've got NC State taking on Penn State. I don't really think NC State's going to make a New Year's Six Bowl. I just haven't loved them this year. The Citrus Bowl, Purdue versus Ole Miss. So they're high on Purdue. They like Purdue. I like that they don't have Ole Miss in a New Year's Six Bowl. Ole Miss is going to lose games, in my opinion, here soon. Purdue, I think Purdue what if they go 9-3? They could make the Citrus Bowl maybe. Wake Forest versus Kentucky. That's a decent game, I guess. I would take Wake Forest, honestly. Minnesota and Arkansas. Arkansas needs to beat BYU this weekend for sure on the road. And then Boise State and Toledo. So Toledo, kind of an under-the-radar team from the MAC conference. It's always interesting to look at bowls. Again, guys, the most important thing I would say, if you get a playoff of Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, that's worst-case scenario, folks. It really is. I mean, they'll draw. It'll be good ratings and everything, but as a general sense, it's not a good look for college football. And whether it's Alabama, Ohio State not making it, Clemson or Georgia, I mean, that's, those are four teams that have been to the playoff a ton. And this is another reason why the playoff is getting expanded. I mean, you can say what you want. And one of the reasons they say it shouldn't be expanded is we already have so many blowouts in the 4-team model. But realistically, I mean, if you instilled a 12-team model, do we really think Clemson is this world beater this year? I mean, I think Clemson's losing this week, but like if Clemson makes a 4-team playoff and they have to face like a 7 or 8 seed, I could see them losing that game. I mean, Clemson's not a world beater. So there's situations, in my opinion. Every situation is different. I think when you take extremely small sample sizes, because the playoffs only been a thing since 2014, so they use these small sample sizes, and then they say, what about Ohio State losing 31-0? What about Oklahoma always getting crushed? It's only going to get worse because there'll be more teams now. I don't buy that. I mean, listen, Baylor has to face, Baylor basketball has to face a 16 seed. They have to face a 9 seed. This is what happens in sports. The Yankees have to face the Guardians. You've got to win at least a few games if you want to be a champion, in my opinion. And we've already dealt with so many issues with these supposed huge games, like players sitting out of the Rose Bowl. Like the Rose Bowl, it's such an honor and a prestige to play at the Rose Bowl. These kids don't care. They'd rather protect their draft stock because the Rose Bowl game now, in modern times, is meaningless. It's meaningless to these kids. They'd rather make sure they don't suffer an injury. And that is why the Rose Bowl needs to be incorporated into the playoff. So you force the kids to play because the game is worth more, and now you're playing in the Rose Bowl with a chance to, win a national title. So that is why it's being expanded. This has all been explained multiple times, guys. There are just so many more pros for the 12-team playoff, and don't be surprised by the end of October if we get an official announcement from the meeting that they're supposed to be having that, they came together, kumbaya, it's so historic, they're agreeing and we're expanding the playoff by 2024. The only issue is logistics and getting all these dates and times done because 2024, it's not a far off period when you're talking about reserving stadiums, things like that, getting all this stuff done and actually formatting it and getting things done. But they can get it done by 2024. 2023, there was no way. The schedule's already done. You're not going to do it. 2024, it is possible. And again, guys, the worst case scenario, they don't agree. The 12-team playoff would be put on hold for another 2 years until 2026. I don't think that's happening, but that would be the worst case scenario. But guys, just a few updates on possible expansion to both college basketball and college football, the postseason formats. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.